All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. So this is the public engagement meeting regarding the local Parks and Recreation Fund grant that the city is seeking for improvements to Historical Village Park. Hopefully you're all in the right place. I recognize most of you, so I think you are. Thank you for being here this evening to hear my presentation. If you haven't had a chance yet, there is a sign-in sheet going around. Fill that in, and then we also have comment cards up here on the front table if you want to leave any comments after the meeting. I am going to leave time for a Q&A session afterwards as well, so feel free to ask me any questions. Let's get started. So quick introductions, who am I and why am I here with you all this evening? Like I said, I think I know most of you by now, but my name is Annika Gilliam. I am a landscape architect and project manager at Kimley Horn in our Nashville office. Kimley Horn, along with 906 Studios, is the part of the design team for Historical Village Park. We've been working on this project since August of 2024. And I am leading the design team that includes landscape architects, civil engineers, surveyors, geotechnical engineers, and electrical and structural engineers. So we've got a big team, and you're lucky enough to have me here with you all tonight to represent that team. I am also the grant administrator for this project that we are seeking funding for, and that's what this presentation is going to be about. So the goal of this meeting, so this is a public engagement meeting. It is required by TDEC for the grant application that we are actively applying, in the process of applying for. The 2026 Local Parks and Recreation Fund, which is LPRF, so you're gonna hear me say LPRF a lot throughout this presentation. The city, through its grant administrator, me, Kimley Horn, is applying for this LPRF grant to help improvements to Historical Village Park. So we have been working on this grant since the beginning of the year, and the date of the application is due in April. And like I said, this engagement meeting with you all is part of the requirement of the grant. So we are seeking funding for Historical Village Park because it was noted in the Parks Master Plan in 2023 when the master plan was adopted. And we're going to get a little bit more into that master plan as well, because it's really important to not only the improvements we're making to Historical Village Park, but also to this grant application. So what is the Local Parks and Recreation Fund, LPRF? This is a really impactful grant here in Tennessee for local governments to apply for. It is administered by TDEC's Office of Outdoor Recreation. The funds from this grant can be used for a variety of parks and recreation projects, including capital improvement type projects, which is what Historical Village Park would be. This is a 50-50 match grant, so that means that TDEC is funding half of the cost, and the city would be required to fund the other half of the cost. So why Historical Village? Why are we applying for a grant for Historical Village? So we're going to do a little deep dive kind of into the park system here, and that's where we're going to talk a little bit more about the Parks Master Plan and how it plays a role in this. Currently, Bowie Nature Center is the cornerstone of your park system here in Fairview. As the community has continued to grow, you all have looked to develop smaller parks on different parts of the city to help provide green space as well as areas for recreation and historic preservation. Historical Village Park is one of these smaller parks, and it was highlighted in the master plan as needing improvements to better serve this growing community that you all have. So a little bit more information. This map is a high-level view of the city, and it has some of the open space and park systems highlighted on it. The orange circle at the bottom is Historical Village Park. So if we zoom out for a second and take the city as a whole, you can see the distribution of the space across the city. Based on the census data from 2024, the population of the city was around 10,009 residents. And the city has a total of 722 acres of parkland about 700 of those acres are at Bowie Nature Center. So it's obviously a very important piece of the community. And in comparison, Historical Village Park is a little over 3 acres. So total park acres, parkland of the city, so you've got 722, 700 for Bowie, and there's Historical Village Park, and then there's Veterans Memorial Park as well. So here's some demographics that were part of the Parks Master Plan. A few of the snapshots here, so that it shows the, I talked about growth and how the city has grown over the last few years. That's what the graphic on the left is showing. And you can see the rate of growth here in the city versus rate of growth just for Williamson County, and then as well as the population growth on the right there in the chart from the 2024 census data. So this graphic gives a snapshot of the city's age, gender, and ethnic makeup. And you can see kind of in the bottom here, the breakdown of age. There's a large percentage of the community members here that are active adults and are kind of seeking that open space across the community. 48% between the ages of 25 and 59, and 36% under the age of 25. So here's where we get into the Parks Master Plan and why it's so important to this grant. So like we mentioned, this Park Master Plan gives an overview of what the city can sort of, it gives you all a roadmap really for how you can move forward with park improvement projects. It's a really extensive document, and it serves as a guide for you all. It's usually done in 5-year increments. So this was done in 2023, which is beneficial for us because it was done in the last 5 years. TDEC is seeing that, hey, we noted this in our park master plan. This is a project we are actively seeking to improve on based on input that we got for that park master plan, and we would like to use this fund to act upon that. And then based on the input and feedback from the community during that Parks Master Plan process, Historical Village Park was highlighted as a current city park that was in need of some improvements. So the next few slides, we'll kind of go into a few of those findings from the master plan. So these are a couple of screenshots from the master plan. It's really highlighting where the feedback that you all got from the community was talking about educational opportunities. They're looking for more educational opportunities across the community, specifically in Bowie and specifically in Historical Village. Historical Village was also ranked highest need for connectivity with the rest of the city. And based on the feedback, Bowie and Historical Village, people were wanting to see ADA accessible parking and pathways, and a stage or a pavilion area was mentioned as well for people to gather in. Here's another screenshot from the master plan. So this is just highlighting all the areas where Historical Village was specifically called out in feedback from community and stakeholders. So lots of discussions about needing space for gatherings, needing space for educational opportunities, and just needing space, access to more green space as well, flexible green space. And this is really where we come into play. So in the master plan, it specifically highlighted Historical Village, and suggested uses for this park specifically included open air stage, amphitheater space, farmers market, where people can come and set up for vendors, parking, ADA accessible walking paths, and just a better connection to the community itself. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Historical Village. So these are some of the existing conditions. You've all been out there, I'm sure. This was one of our site visits, I think almost 2 years ago now. And just sort of taking in some of the existing conditions that we intend on preserving as part of the improvements to the park. So none of what is there right now as far as the historic structures will be taken out or impacted at all by any of the improvements happening. Some more images to share. Obviously, this park is an important piece of important cultural location for the city to gather. So site suitability, this site has specifically been designated for preservation of its history and natural features. The improvements will work with the existing grade. So one of the things that we are looking to implement on the site is an amphitheater. So the grade of the site is already sort of sloping in one direction. So we intend to work with that grade to implement the amphitheater design. Open areas of the site, optimizing natural features and preserving scenic views, and obviously the historic structures. And the property is located on the western entrance of the city, and it's in a position within an established residential area as well. So this is just a high-level map. We're kind of zoomed back out, looking at the city as a whole here, and we're right down in the very southern tip there. This is a survey, so I talked about our design team as part of our schematic design initial digging into the site. We had a site survey done. This was that survey. And really this is showing just sort of the grade. That's where all these lines are on the page, the grade, where existing utilities are, and then the exact locations of the historic structures as well as the parking. And here we are. So this is our approved schematic design for Historical Village. And once again, we took all of the elements that were highlighted in the Parks Master Plan and implemented them onto the site. Parking, covered farmers market pavilion, open air stage, restroom building, ADA walking path, preserving historic structures, as well as providing some water quality area for water quality on the site. So I kind of went through some of these main components. What's really important about this is that we are in line with the Parks Master Plan, and that's one thing that TDEC is going to look at really closely, is that the city got feedback from the community. The community said these are the things that are important to us, and the city is now looking to implement those design elements and getting funding to help implement those design elements. So some programming and positive impacts of the project. We're improving safety and accessibility through ADA compliant site upgrades. That sort of loop that I showed in the schematic design, that will be a completely ADA accessible loop that goes from the parking lot and it connects every element of the park together. The farmers market pavilion, the open air stage, and then the existing historic structures. So we're protecting the historical and cultural heritage of the site while allowing it to be more of an active space. We're really helping to activate the space for the community and creating flexible and welcoming spaces for events, gatherings, enrichments, education sessions. That was a big thing that was brought up in the master plan as well. And then just enhancing the overall usability and inclusivity of the site. So where will the funding for this project come from? So that's where the local Parks and Recreation Fund comes in. So it's 50% of the total project cost will be funded by the grant. 25% will be matched with land value because the city owns the land, and 25% will come from city funds. So funds from the grant can be used to cover the construction costs and also architectural and engineering fees associated with the project. So that would be my fees associated with the project. And this is just a bigger breakdown. So as part of the application, we are requesting $2.6 million. And this is the breakdown of where all that money is sort of high level is being allocated. We've got the A&E, which is architectural and engineering services, as well as grant administration. So in capital improvements, that's all of the new features that we're adding to the site. That's the stage, pavilion, restroom building, landscape, stormwater improvements, and then the ADA accessibility, hardscape, and site improvements. And then the land value match is $760,000 as part of this fund. So this is a very TDEC slide, so forgive me. This is SCORP goals and initiatives in this project. SCORP stands for State Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan. This is another way, the application, we can show TDEC that, hey, we're trying to be inclusive. We're kind of trying to check all of these boxes with this project that we're hoping to get funding for. And these are a few of the things that TDEC finds important that we're kind of checking their boxes for, and that's inclusivity, diversity. We're ensuring that all parks will be places where all communities can engage with nature in positive ways. We're identifying and creating relevant educational resources to share statewide, and we're developing partnerships. So that's really where the farmers market comes into play. It enables partnerships with local vendors, cultural organizations, and community groups. And then the amphitheater and open air stage provides a venue for performances, festivals, again, the educational programming and civic events to help develop partnerships with art organizations, schools, nonprofits, local heritage groups, list goes on. And then there's also infrastructure to support partnership with local farmers, artisans, and small businesses as well. So these are really, really strong points that we are able to fulfill with TDEC as part of these SCORP initiatives. So what's the timeline for this? So an LPRF timeline is usually 3 years. Like I said at the beginning of the presentation, applications for the grant are due to TDEC on April 1st. And that's when we'll have completed our application and we will have submitted it. And then usually TDEC informs local governments late summer, early fall of this year, whether or not they've been awarded the requested funds. So from that point, when we've been told whether or not we've been awarded the funds, we kind of start this timeline. And there's a couple months where we start contracting with TDEC. We've got construction documents and design approvals. So that's where my team comes back in for the design. We're going to be creating construction documents that can then be put out to bid, handed over to a contractor, and we can actually build the park off of. There's bidding, contract selection, construction, which is usually the longest part, and then TDEC will come and do a punch list and final items to make sure, like, hey, you all said you needed funding for these things, or all of these things on site, and they'll come and check the boxes. We'll do the final inspection and then ribbon cutting and opening park for public use. That is the end of my informational slides. I think a lot of you have seen these renderings before, but I just thought I'd add them to the end of this presentation. So this is renderings that we have put together to kind of give a 3D view of what this is going to be. We are also going to be submitting these to TDEC to show that we're pretty far in our design process. We put a lot of thought, we put a lot of time and a lot of care into these designs, and we really just need the funding to get it going. That's all that's stopping us from making this project a reality at this point. So I'll click through some of these renderings for you all. So that's the farmer's market pavilion. That'll be the main entrance into it. And this pavilion was designed by, here I'll go back. So my team, landscape architects, we worked on sort of the overall site, laying everything out. We worked with the civil engineers to determine the best spots for the ADA accessible walking path, the improvements to the stormwater quality units. And then our partners at 906 Studios came in and they designed the farmers market pavilion, the restroom building, and then the open air stage. So this pavilion is one of the elements that they will continue to work construction documents on once we have hopefully been awarded the grant. And they will create documents for the open air stage here as well. Of it, and then the restroom building. And that is it. pretty to the point. I'm happy to answer any questions. Like I said, this meeting was a requirement of the application, and it was really just to give an overview of essentially everything that's been done up until this point and what we hope to continue to do and what we will be able to do if we are awarded this fund. So I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. Thank you so much for listening to me this evening. Happy to go back to any slides if anybody has any questions about specific slides. Question? Oh, yes, thank you. We won't have a rendering. It'll be part of the construction documents once we get to that point. Go back. Well, I'll go back here. I'll go back to the overall plan so we can see that while we're sitting here talking. Yeah, so we will update this with any necessary changes once we get to that construction document phase. Dr. Rice? It's not a part of the application, no. That would be a part of future construction documents. There's no reason for it to be added to the part of the application, not at this point. We're just giving TDEC a high-level view of what we intend to do, and this is the approved schematic design, and that's really all they need right now for this application. A good question. Any other questions? Yep, for all the events that you guys are gonna hold at the site. It's not important for them to see at this point. This plan does not have to be fully flushed out as part of this application. We're just showing them the intent of what we want to do at the site. It doesn't all have to be ironed out at this point. Just enough for them to say, all right, here are the list of things that were on the master plan. Oh, they have those components here in this high-level plan for this application. Is this parking that's on an additional parcel off the site? Deer Ridge, yeah. And that would be a permanent parking lot or gravel? Yeah. That's definitely a conversation that we can have with TDEC when the grant is awarded. It would be prevented because it would not be a part of essentially we're calling this our area of interest for the fund. We're saying TDEC, we're focused on this site specifically. So if there were off-sites improvements made, that would be a conversation with them later saying, we would like to make off-sites improvements. Can we have funding for that? And they can say yes, or they can say, yes, we'll do the 50-50 match. So if this is the cost of the improvement, yes, additional funds can be requested after being awarded. Yep, good question. Questions? If the city owns that property and it's documented, yes, it's part of the land match. I believe so. Good questions. Any other questions about the grant or the process we've been working through as part of the application or any of the timelines? Yes. That's a great question. Pretty much, it's a pretty high success rate. To not be successful or to not get awarded the grant, you're essentially not checking all the boxes. And we check all the boxes with this project, which is why we're so confident with it and why we put so much time to make sure that we're documenting everything. And like I said, this meeting is us checking one of those boxes to make sure we're engaged. So we're pretty confident, pretty hopeful that we will be awarded this grant. Yeah, great question. Yes, it's kind of paid in installments. So that first few, if we go back to that timeline, those first few months is TDEC sort of setting up with the city that payment plan, and you're essentially submitting, here's how much we're paying. Okay, they're matching that, and it's done in installments, I believe. What's nice about this and what's unique about this project is the fact that you all as a city own that land. So that $760,000, you all are not paying that. The TDEC is saying thank you so much for protecting this land in perpetuity as a park. We're going to give you that $760,000 in match. So that shrinks that city's contribution down to 25%. So they would be paid. Great question. Yes. So we have done a lot of work on the front end. So like I said, we've been working on this since August of 2024, and we are very far along in the process. The fact that we even have this plan that we're looking up is huge, And the fact that this plan has been approved by the Board of Commissioners is huge, because as soon as TDEC says, congratulations, City of Fairview, you've been awarded an LPRF grant, we can hit their ground running. So there's not a whole lot more that we need to do to get our construction documents done, that 3 to 9 month window that I gave for that. That's pretty much what it would take for us to put construction documents together, get it permitted with the city, and then the bidding process, and yeah, get a contractor out to the site. And it's only, like I said, it's only 3 acres, fingers crossed it doesn't take that long to develop. But yeah, I foresee this being shorter than 3 years because of the upfront work we've done. It's a great question. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Great question. So, city manager and planning director have been very helpful providing all the documentation that we've had. We've been working closely together the last few months to make sure that they're checking all those boxes and providing all the documentation that TDEC is looking for. So this is our in-person meeting. There is also, this is being recorded. It will be posted online. If anyone didn't get a chance to attend tonight, they will be able to watch back the recording. They can comment on it as well. And then that is checking another one of our boxes that we're sort of fulfilling both those meeting requirements. So yeah, if there's anyone who's not here tonight and they wanted this information, that will be posted online. I believe Facebook, and then there's Facebook Live. Sorry, this is being streamed to Facebook Live, and then it will be posted to YouTube as well. Yeah. Questions about time frame or the park in general? Like I said, I know that most of you have seen the project before. I'm going to go timeline so you all can see that. There we go. Okay. Easy enough. Well, thanks for listening to me. Thanks for letting me rattle off facts about your city to you all. And we are excited to get this in the next 2 weeks. Like I said, it's due April 1st. And then after it's submitted, it's kind of a waiting game. We just sort of sit and wait, and TDEC will process all of the applications. And in some years, they have been communicating who's awarded the funds in August, and some years it's September. It just depends on the volume of applications they get. Like I said, we are very confident and very hopeful that this is checking all the boxes, and this is the type of project that TDEC is hoping to fund with a grant like this. So thank you all for being open to applying for this grant and allowing us to administer the grant for you, and I hope I get to come back here with good news for you all. So thank you for your time. Have a good evening. Enjoy Planning Commission.